Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning from wherever you're joining us from, and welcome to the EU Green Deal meets data space session as part of the FIWARE Smart First Edition 2. My name's James George, and I will be your moderator and host for this session. And what a session we've got for you today, actually. Pretty jam-packed. The next 30 minutes are definitely going to evaporate pretty quickly as we explore the topic of policy and data as a leverage to support systems change. Bit of housekeeping before we start. Obviously, you can see my speakers on screen today, and they'll come off mute as we go through. The event is being recorded, so if you or colleagues want to revisit, you can do after today's session. And lastly, there is a Q&A function. We have a finite amount of time today. I'm sure it will generate lots of questions, so do get them in on the panel on the right-hand side. We'll attempt to intersperse them into the conversation. If we don't, I've been assured that we're going to fire it to our speakers to try and get answers anyway. So you have been warned. If you don't ask questions, I will. So you've only got yourselves to blame. So then when we think about this session, we all know that businesses are the engines of our global economy. But without correct policy, how do we set the right conditions for new businesses and new disruptive business models to thrive? On the 11th of December 2019, the European Union presented its Green Deal, a deal built on the tenets of no net emissions of greenhouse gases by 2050, economic growth decoupled from resource use, and no person and no place left behind. Over the next, what's now 27 minutes, then we're going to explore a high-level overview of that deal and its implications when we think about data spaces. Smart digital solutions based on open source models have a lot to contribute. We will look and explore how open source technology is contributing to mitigating climate change, boosting resource efficiency, and creating a far more efficient and sustainable production plan. But let me introduce you to our first speaker of today. Johan's going to start with our quick 10-minute keynote. He's the EU Programme and Policy Officer at DG Connect, part of the European Commission. And having worked for a large number of years at the EU Court of Justice, Johan joined the European Commission in 2017 as a Programme and Policy in the DG Connect's Data Policy and Innovation Unit. Johan, over to you.
Many thanks for the introduction. I will try to share my screen quickly, and please let me know if you can see it. So I have shared it on my side. Please let me know if you can see it.
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me for this important session on the Green Deal as such, and more specifically on the Green Deal data space, how data and data space in the field of the Green Deal can contribute to the important Green Deal initiative that has been taken. So as mentioned by James and already by Piers O'Donoghue this morning, in the opening session of the FIWARE Smart Fest, indeed, the Green Deal is the key priority of Europe, the key priority of the Commission. It is a vast deal that I will not go into details, of course, and I don't need to convince you of the importance of this deal in order to try to make sure that we become climate neutral by 2050 and that we are able to transform our society and economy in all the different fields to make sure that we are going to live in a more sustainable way. So this is a huge challenge, and therefore this European Green Deal is unprecedented and is a key priority of the Commission and of Europe. And linked to that is the second priority that we are well aware of, which is the digital transition. That is to say, the challenges and the promises that digital holds in helping our society and economy be functioning better and more efficiently. And more specifically focusing now on data, the European Green Deal already acknowledged in its text in the communication that data really has the potential to facilitate evidence-based decisions in this field and to make sure that it can fully support the ecological transition to gradually come to the results of this Green Deal. And a year later, in the European data strategy that was presented with a bold vision to come to a single data market gradually, and the setting up of common European data spaces in various strategic fields, sectors, and domains, of course, the Green Deal could not be mentioned. So this was indeed the decision to gradually set up a common European data space to support the Green Deal with relevant data. Now, I'm going to be very concrete with you because how do we accelerate the development of the European common data space in the field of the Green Deal? Well, we from the Commission have the pleasure of having launched the very first call for proposals of our new program, which is called the Digital Europe Program, and that you probably have heard of or know very well already. You see in this screen that various sectors that we will develop, for which we will develop common European data spaces on the left side of the slide, contains obviously also the Green Deal. And this very first call that you see in the center of the slide, that was opened in November already and will finish in about 5 weeks, the 22nd of February, contains a coordination and support action on specifically the Green Deal data space. So it is the very first step that will be supported by Europe, by this new Digital Europe program, to put in place the first building blocks, the first preparatory actions to develop and set up this European common Green Deal data space. So it's a project that will last for 1 to 1.5 years with 2 million funding for 100%. And it should help to really in the coming months and years to create this European Green Deal. Now, what is the vision of this European Green Deal? You see it on this slide, is in the end to have a fully functioning common marketplace for Green Deal related data, also algorithms and applications that will really enable any stakeholder that is active in the field of the Green Deal to access, process, and reuse relevant Green Deal data in order to support the Green Deal strategies and to reach the Sustainable Development Goals. So, in order to arrive hopefully soon at this ambitious European Green Deal data space, this very first call, again, focusing on the first steps, a coordination and support action, is having as the first objectives to start interconnecting various already existing ecosystems in the field of Green Deal data. And in order to do that, to set up a trusted IT environment on the one hand, and to work out the set of rules that determine how are we going to access, process, use, and reuse the data, which we refer to as a governance framework. Now, the very first outcomes that are expected of this first call are, first of all, the establishment of a priority list of specific data set types that are relevant to the Green Deal strategies and action plans, to work out a blueprint that is actually connecting these existing ecosystems on the various levels, national, regional, local, to start working on this governance scheme, that is to say, work out common principles on the roles and the responsibilities, on under what conditions you can access, use, and reuse data, the question of data quality, um, personal data management, etc. And finally, to come up with a road plan on how in the coming years we will be able to grow and develop towards a full-fledged common European deal data space. Now, one of the challenges of a data space in general, and let's say particularly maybe of this very important transversal Green Deal domain, are the data needs. Now, Green Deal data is something that touches upon any sector, be it mobility, manufacturing, agriculture. And one of the challenges of this Green Deal data space is to start finding and connecting the various data that are relevant for the goals of the Green Deal. So you see on the slide a lot of initiatives that are already taking place as part of the Green Deal on biodiversity, zero pollution, circular economy, and of course, all that has to be taken into account. And then you see on the right-hand side some important other sources and initiatives that take place already since several years in several cases, like EMODNet, the European Marine Observation Data Network, Copernicus, of course, relevant outcomes of Horizon Europe, not to speak about the other data spaces that are going to be set up at the same time, smart communities, energy, of course, mobility. And finally, also the gradual availability of high value data sets from the public sector in relevant fields such as weather, geospatial, that is going to be the result of the Open Data Directive that you probably know of. Now, the scope of the call for this very first support action is also pointing to the importance that the consortium, the project that will be selected to set up these first initiatives of the Green Deal data space, is to work in partnership with a so-called Data Spaces Support Center that is going to be set up at the same time. So this Data Spaces Support Center is going to work on reference architecture, common building blocks, and common toolboxes that can be used by the various sectoral data spaces, including, of course, the Green Deal data space. Same regarding work on common standards, work on governance models, but also business models and any strategies for running in an efficient way sectoral data spaces. Here on this slide, you can see, let's say in a schematic way, the central role that the Data Spaces Support Center will have, and on the right-hand side, the various sectoral or domain-specific data spaces, including the Green Deal data space. So on the one hand, the Green Deal data space is going to feed into the Data Spaces Support Center its specificities and how they're going to gradually develop this data space. Whereas the Data Spaces Support Center, apart from, let's say, general support in any field, is also specifically going to relay back the various so-called technical framework building blocks that are going to be developed at the same time through digital and more. So you see here middleware solutions, cloud to edge based service solutions, etc. The idea is, of course, that as much as possible, common technical building blocks are being used by the various data spaces. And finally, of course, for this specific European Green Deal data space, the targeted stakeholders, that is to say, the consortium, should be representative of the various Green Deal initiatives. So, of course, there is a reference to the stakeholders that are linked to the Inspire directive, as well as the Destination Earth initiative or other Green Deal priority actions. And finally, as a minimum, there should be 3 independent entities from 3 different eligible countries that can constitute the consortium. But we can imagine, of course, that with such an important area as the Green Deal, the consortium will be a bit bigger than 3 parties. Now, I hope that most of you have already found the information. If not, we will share this presentation with you and you will be able to find the core documents and all the core information here on the link. And I just wanted to close down now my presentation to point to that when you go to the funding and tender portal and you will find the call on the Green Deal data space, you can also see that there is a specific partner search function for the Green Deal data space call, which currently has already 28 partners, where you can find parties, companies, or any other entities that are interested to build a consortium. And you can also make your voice heard there yourself as well as a company that is interested in participating in this Green Deal data space call. So we hope, of course, that although 5 weeks are left, which is not a lot of time, that most of you are already thinking of participating in this very first preparatory action of building the Green Deal data space. And I hope you can find the information. Thank you very much. I stop here now.
Good. Johan, thank you very much and for being on time as well, right? So a lot of information there, folks, sort of 50,000 foot view. As Johan already mentioned, we will be sharing the presentation so you can dig into that after the session. Again, if you want to put questions to Johan specifically about his part of today, do so in the Q&A and we can come back to that at the end of the session. We're going to pivot slightly now. We've sort of talked about the basis there of data around the Green Deal. But now I want to hear about some specific case studies. Our next speaker, Gaetano, who's founder and CEO of Latitude 40, is an Italian startup that uses satellite data to improve life on our planet. No mean feat. After working for over 20 years in space-related companies, he decided to combine his passion for space tech with the need to do something to improve the environmental impact of our cities. Gaetano, over to you.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for accepting us in this session. I'm really happy to be here. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you certainly can.
Yeah. Good afternoon. After my presentation in this very short presentation, I introduce our vision to design the new green cities. So, as a support of Green Deal initiative, using artificial intelligence algorithms and Copernicus data. So, the idea in this on the base of our vision is that a lot of cities are in a digital transformation process, but sometimes natural capital is not considered in this digital revolution. Also, if the green infrastructure of a city is a really mandatory resource for the sustainability of the urban resilience. So this is really important to pay the right attention to the capital of the natural resources. And it's important that green, so urban trees and other green space in the cities can create a lot of benefit for all citizens, but can also give a great contribution to the biodiversity in our countries, but also in all Europe. My idea is that the challenge of sustainability needs to be win in the city, because in the city will have the more than 75% of the world population. So this is important. When we are looking for data space for green cities, there are a lot of problems. Where to find the data, how to elaborate them, the very huge amount of cube of data, how to keep this data up to date, and how to use this data to simulate the future effect of this action. The people in the city environment have sometimes not so big skill in this activity. And so our idea in this moment is that the remote sensing satellite solution, the investment of the European Commission in Copernicus constellation, but also other national initiative like Cosmos SkyMed in Italy, can give a very big support in designing of the green cities. First of all, the benefit of remote sensing. We have very high accuracy. We are from 10 meters, but we can reach now with new commercial constellation up to 50 centimeters of resolution on the ground. So very precise. It's possible to have an automatic acquisition, so to save time and money to acquire the data. And the two main parameters, two main topics are that we have historical data. We can go back in 8-10 years and recover all the data that we need without any sensor. And with a single image, with a single acquisition, we can have a multi-parameter analysis. We can identify different parameters of the city. So using this activity, we can analyze the environmental trends. So we can see the city like an evolution and what are the reasons of this change. So identify risk, priority areas for action in terms of how many people are inside the risk, what are the social impacts. So the correlation with the income level. We are working with some cities also connecting this data with the not only with census, but also with incoming, and the definition of action. And important, the remote sensing give the possibility to monitor continuously the KPI and verify if the step, the milestone, the city is reaching the milestone. This is really important for a continuous cycle. So this is our approach. We created a platform that can fuse data from different sources. So for us, the data space are the satellite constellation archive, Copernicus, but also commercial constellation, all the IoT sensor and city open data that we can integrate using the FIWARE technology, the context broker in this part. And with our artificial intelligence and automation, we can extract insight from this data. So we produce 3 products. One is the climate dashboard for the city. So how the city can reach the zero net using nature-based solution. Then we can open the transparency between the city and the citizen, because every city can demonstrate the results, can open the KPI report and the SG report of the city. Last one is really new technology that we are developing is the carbon sequestration marketplace. Each city can sequestrate CO2. This CO2 can be offered to the private market, to companies that can use for offsetting the emission, and the city can use this money to improve the sustainability of the city. So the acquisition is automatic. So for us, data space, when we connect the data space, that is a new satellite constellation or the source of the IoT data, there is an automatic acquisition. So all the process is simplified. We simplified the complexity of this activity.
Gaetano, we're gonna have to wrap it up there. I appreciate you kind of mid-flow.
Just to slide this one, that we can see the city in building blocks. Some use case that we are working to fight against climate change in terms of urban islands and quality, and green, as the green can impact also on the well-being of the city. And final, this is my last slide, that we look at the city in a different way, not as a collection of solitary trees, building, technology, and people, but as an internet of the city, as an integrated and interconnected ecosystem that we call home. Thank you. Thank you for, sorry for the...
No, Gaetano, thank you very much. It's a hugely fascinating space, right? And I think this gets to the heart, your kind of closing bit there gets to the heart of just the interconnectedness of our cities and how we need to improve that in order to solve some of these global challenges. So I'm sure that conversation will carry on. And I'm pretty sure I caught in the middle there, 50 centimeter resolution. I mean, that's a long way from kind of Google Earth and stuff, right? That really is, like you say, getting into the heart of the data. I'm going to switch now to our final speaker, last but by no means least, Antonio, who's CEO of Hopu, a Spanish company focused on research and development of IoT, Internet of Things, and smart city solutions. So continuing that city's narrative. Antonio holds a PhD from the University of Murcia in Spain, an MBA from the ENA Business School in UCAM, and has received several entrepreneurship awards for disruptive innovation in IoT. Antonio, over to you.
Hello, everybody. First, thank you so much, James, and to the FIWARE Foundation for making this possible. I would love to be in Gran Canaria today, but anyway, let's do it and let's move to Gran Canaria in coming month. And today I want to present one of the very nice projects that we are enabling as part of Hopu and together with FIWARE Foundation and engineering in order to demonstrate how these data spaces are already helping to mitigate climate change. And one of these had been to enable with contextual intelligence, bringing all the value of FIWARE technologies to start digitalizing all the value of the new voluntary offset market. So here the situation is that when we are in a smart city, Hopu is specialized in smart cities, in contextual intelligence analysis, we need to really understand what is the value of bringing, for example, new mobility schemes, new lighting, like LED lighting, new actions, as a result, as a value for the climate change mitigation. And this, at the same time, is enabling us to create new CO2 tokens as part of the voluntary offset market. This is very, very important because it's a way to promote and support and help people to understand the value here. The CO2 marketplace we are creating is taking value of the data spaces about air quality monitoring mainly, that is the specialty of Hopu, but also other data to see if really when people is doing some action for CO2 mitigation, it is really having a strong impact into the real quality of life, health impact, and of course, all the sustainability development. And the most important also part of this is that it's enabling and helping us to really enable this new economy of the CO2 offset market. And FIWARE as a driver to demonstrate and to enable this new economy. I have very good example. One of the leader companies in our region, Europe, Volkswagen, that everybody knows, the car manufacturer, today, if they need to pay compensation to Amazons, they will lose over 2,000 euros per car manufacturer. This is not sustainable if they follow exactly what we are compromising. See, however, if we suddenly define new ways to compensate CO2, like for example, new transportation, working, new household devices, etc., then we can see that from the average cost of $50 per ton of CO2 that usually costs the reforestation in Amazon, we can go even so cheap as $3 or $4. So I don't say let's not do reforestation, let's do this only the second class of CO2 offset, but at the same time, it's a way to create and promote, and of course, give the right value to every right aspect. And of course, we can define laws to not being able to make all the competition only in the secondary market, in the voluntary market also need to be balanced. Let's say, let's do 30% in the voluntary market and 17% in other primary emission trade system market. But this is a value that only if we use this data space and we use contextual intelligence like FIWARE are we really to measure and to really create these tokens and to really create this value economy. So the value proposition is to really enable local economies, support European Commission with a new Green Deal and the emission trade system, and the most important, also support business as part of the corporate social responsibility, taxes reduction, and to achieve and promote local economies, and even behavioral chain of people. Our objective is to promote this creation of new standard driven by cities. We have already one city called Cartagena, and also is joining other companies I mentioned, like Volkswagen and other big companies that are starting to evaluate this kind of new opportunities in order to demonstrate the value. We are with FIWARE, as part of FIWARE and HOPU, demonstrating the real value of this impact with air quality monitor, certified IoT air quality monitor manufactured by HOPU, to really demonstrate that there is a really value, and that is what we are really looking forward to see, that this is a real value proposition. So we are already discussing with these early adopters. So this is also a call to look for early adopter people that wants to join for this new Digital Europe project, but also new opportunities. We have already investors from USA like Chia, but also different cities and different advisors, like for example, Dow Jones, that are already synchronizing and taking care of this value. How it looks like is simple. It's just based on FIWARE, where we can monitor, evaluate impact. We can check all the different data we are getting from different data spaces, from different based on different data models. And at the end of the day, we can first understand what is the origin of pollution, and secondly, see if there is some specific action that are really mitigating and reducing this impact into the city. Then you have the opportunity to create and evaluate all this. We are also using, as presented before by Caetano, all the Copernicus satellite data. We are increasing the capacity of Copernicus with hyper-local data coming from IoT sensors. And finally, we are using some propagation model like Chimera from the European Union in order to demonstrate how really the pollution is propagating and to make sure that the picture that we are taking is not forgetting anything that could happen around. Finally, as I mentioned, the city is already validated by Versailles Consulting, by Cartagena, and we are really establishing this new initial cooperation. I think European Union, as part of EIT Digital, is really supporting and moving this, and we are really moving forward in order to guarantee that this can be compatible with other systems like Gold Standard and Berra, with other markets like American one. So the customer development is going, and indeed, so I just want to thanks everybody. Thanks to FIWARE for making possible and supporting it. And indeed, thank you so much. If you have any question, comment, let's go to co2marketplace.com or just follow me later on. And we are really looking forward to make this possible, because I think this is a very good proof of how FIWARE and data spaces can help us to demonstrate that we can mitigate climate change, and the most important, we can demonstrate and find new models that, for example, we don't start impacting in our key business like automotive business just because we want to become sustainable. Then we start becoming much less, let's say, competitive. Thank you. I'm sorry for the time.
Thank you, Antonio. I don't think anyone can question any of the speakers' passion today about their particular topics, which is always a better thing rather than the reverse. We are almost out of time, but I want to just throw one really quick question back at the three speakers, and if you can give me a very quick, literally 5-second answer or a couple of words. And my question, there's complexity to this obviously, but what have you seen as the main implementation challenges over the last 2 years? And if we can go in reverse, start with Antonio, then Gaetano, and then Johan. Just what are your very quick thoughts, and extremely quick, please?
So very quickly, I think the major challenge has been, and is one of the major contributions from FIWARE Foundation, is about the data cleaning and the data access. So I think that we have already demonstrated that open data was not good enough in several cases because we couldn't guarantee the format. We couldn't guarantee how reliable was this data because maybe the period of time that you wanted to have access was not available, or the format was a CSV, Excel file, even several times, even a PDF file. What the hell? And then this kind of thing, having data models, having the right instrument, this is really what I think is a big change. Okay.
So the data cleaning, excellent. Gaetano, from your perspective?
Yeah, I totally agree with Antonio that now it's very complex to use open data in city. Also, it's a very big heritage, so we need it's necessary to standardize this data to try to have a common format, and FIWARE can help us. And for us, we will work to how to use artificial intelligence and simulation to help cities to become more green. Thank you.
And certainly standardization is the theme, right, for businesses trying to get to this. How do we create these new models if we don't have standardization? Johan, finally to you for sort of closing comments.
Thank you very much. So on top of everything that has just been said by the other two speakers, which is absolutely very important, the big challenge, I would believe, is to successfully be able to combine a trusted and secure IT infrastructure together with a functioning data governance framework, to have the two elements together in order to make it work and have an environment where data actually can be found, used and reused and shared. Thank you.
Excellent. To my three speakers, thank you very much. To the audience, thank you for allowing us to steal kind of 2-3 minutes from you. I'm sure you'll agree, this has been very meaty. There's lots of detail to dig into, which you can do through the FIWARE platform and the presentations. Thank you to FIWARE, thank you to our speakers. Enjoy the rest of the sessions, and good afternoon to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thank you, guys. Lovely seeing you all. Bye-bye.